ATM machine and you want to withdraw cash. If you want to withdraw cash, they want to know that it's you. So they ask you for your PIN number, and only after your PIN number is entered do they dispense the cash. Well, the question is, did God include his PIN number in the Torah? Is there a way to verify that the Torah was authored by God himself? And one of the proofs that God wrote the Torah is from this week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion talks about the laws of kosher, kashrut. The Torah says in order for an animal to be kosher, it has to chew its cud and have split hooves. And then the Torah says, what's if an animal only has one of the two signs? Says the Torah, it's still not kosher, it has to have both. And then the Torah says that there's one animal in the entire world that has only split hooves, but does not chew its cud, and therefore it's not kosher. And that is the pig, and therefore the pig is not kosher. And the question is, if a human being wrote the Torah, how would any human being living in one location thousands of years ago, without travel and without technology, possibly know that there's only one animal in the world, on the universe, that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud? This person doesn't know what's happening in other parts of the world, and we've discovered many new continents and thousands of new animals, and we've never discovered even a second animal that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud. Because if we did, it would contradict the Torah that says that there's only one such animal. Furthermore, if you want to think, well, maybe the person got lucky, which intelligent person would ever write down that there's only one such animal and box themselves into a corner, not knowing that there may be other animals in other parts of the world, and that would dispute what this person wrote? So clearly only God, who wrote the Torah, who is the creator of all human and animal life, can say authoritatively that there's only one animal in the world that has split hooves and doesn't chew its cud. And so therefore, if you want to know what is God's PIN number in the Torah to verify that he wrote the Torah, God's PIN number is P-I-G, pig. Believe it or not, it's the pig that is one of the sources quoted in the Talmud to prove that the Torah's authorship was by God himself. One of the laws of kosher is that you're not allowed to eat any food that wasn't prepared with the proper kosher ingredients. And furthermore, if you have meat, according to Jewish law, that was left out of your eyesight, even though you knew it was kosher, but if you walked away from it and you didn't see it, something could have happened to it. If it was shipped somewhere, someone could have switched it. And therefore, if it wasn't supervised at all times in your possession, then you cannot eat the meat. And there's a story told about a yeshiva boy who was on a plane coming back from Israel to America, and he ordered a kosher meal. And they brought him the meal, he unwrapped it. Of course, it comes sealed to make sure that nobody did anything with it, switched it, make sure it's the actual kosher meal. That's why when they serve you a kosher meal, it comes all wrapped with a seal on it, with the supervision. He opened it up, and then he decided he has to go wash for the bread. So he went to the back of the plane to get water to wash. He came back to his seat, ready to eat his deli sandwich. That was his kosher meal, all excited to eat. And suddenly he remembered the law, and the law says that if meat has been out of your eyesight, basar shenesalam min ayin, and you can't verify that it was watched at all times, you're not allowed to eat it because maybe something happened to it. Maybe it's not the original kosher meat. So he realized he's not allowed to eat the meat, and he just left the sandwich sitting there, and he realized he's going to have to be hungry till the plane lands and he gets home. The gentleman sitting next to him, a non-Jewish fellow, said to him, "Sir, why aren't you eating your meal?" So he didn't know what to say. He said, "I'm just not eating it." Finally, the guy kept on asking him. So he explained to him about kosher and the laws of kosher and how you have to see the meat. It has to be under supervision at all times. And the man said to me, "Your religion is absolutely brilliant." He says, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'll tell you what happened. When you went to the back to get water, I looked at your kosher sandwich and I thought to myself, I never tasted kosher meat, kosher food. I want to see what it's like. So I slipped a piece of turkey out of your deli sandwich and I ate it. But then I felt really bad that I stole a piece of your meat and your sandwich looked a little smaller. So I took a piece of my meat from my deli sandwich and I put it in between your sandwich to give you back what I took from you." And the yeshiva boy realized that had he eaten it, he would have actually eaten non-kosher meat. And so this week's Torah portion teaches us about our our dietary laws, and this is something that has never been easier than today's day and age. Every supermarket carries multiple brands of kosher food, and as the advertisement goes, we answer to a higher authority when we eat. We always make sure we're answering to a higher authority.